Good afternoon and welcome to the 242nd episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Today's guest is going to be Thomas County Central head coach Justin Rogers. I'm excited to talk to him. We had him on last season. It was his first year at Thomas County Central. They were 4-0 at the time. They ended up having an incredible season. I believe finished 12-1. They're ranked number 2 for a large part of the season. Obviously, Hughes ended up winning it all, but they fell short to Roswell, I think, in the quarterfinals. It was their only loss of the season. They earned the top seed out of Region 1, which could be argued as the toughest region in 6A. So I'm excited to talk to them. They had a great spring, had a 34-14 win over Perry in their spring game. We've had Perry on, Class 4A powerhouse with Coach Smith. And what impressed me in that game, Thomas County Central was outstanding offensively last year. They had Ricky Fulton taking the carries. They had Samuel Brown at quarterback. They replaced both those guys, but they just seemed to have a ton of talent. They were working 3 different quarterbacks this spring. They all came out and looked really good, including their sophomore, I think Jalen, I'll get his name in a sec. And then I think one of the guys that scored in the first half when the first stringers was out there was a basketball player that has not played football in 3 years. So they're a really interesting team to be watching for, and I was just so impressed with Coach Rogers' debut and how well they played on both sides of the ball. We're also going to talk about the Corky Kell 7-on-7 that's going to be a week from tomorrow at Georgia Tech. Go over the teams that are going to be there, what to expect, the schedule, some of the rules, and just what it's going to be looking like on each of those days. And then we have exciting news about an interview that's going to be tomorrow on Underrated and Overlooked that you will not want to miss. We're looking forward to that. But let's talk about the Corky Kell 7-on-7 real quick. And actually, it's the Corky Kell Dave Hunter 7-on-7. Got to get that right. All right, so the thing I like about this year compared to the previous ones, this is going to be the 9th edition of the 7-on-7, is it's obviously just a lot bigger now. It's 3 days, but with that, each day has slightly less teams, so it's not going to be as long as a day. The tournament play will go by faster rather than having the 40 teams on the one day. It's going to be 28 teams or 30 teams on one day, and so the bracket will go a lot quicker. Games will mean a lot more, and we'll get to have 3 different champions crowned. And also, it's just going to be really exciting to have it at Georgia Tech, and the players are going to get to really just explore the campus and get a first-class experience. So here's how the event is going to go. So the teams are going to arrive at 8 a.m. They'll register at the Rose Bowl field, and the Rose Bowl field is, I think that's the name of their baseball field. It's right next to the track, and that will be one of the 5 fields that teams are assigned to. And then 7-on-7 is a 40-yard field. We'll have the scorekeepers in the middle at the 50, and then 2 games going on at once. After the teams arrive at 9 o'clock, the head coaches are going to meet. And we do have teams coming from all over, including 2 South Carolina teams. We have Tift County coming, and so I think that's the furthest drive, about 4.5 hours. So an 8 a.m. check-in. We'll see what their strategy is for that. They have to get to the school at 2 a.m. or if they're going to come down the day before. But after the coaches meeting at 9, at 9:15, Georgia Tech's Brent Key is going to address all the teams in the indoor facility, and that will be really special. There's already looks like we went out for a sec, but yeah, it looks like there's obviously a lot of these players are already on Georgia Tech's radar for recruiting. Some of them are actually going to end up going there, and Tech has just been doing a really good job recruiting the state with some of the new staff members, administrators, and obviously Coach McFarland and Coach Bill Stewart, who are now working at Tech and were a huge part in getting this event there. So then after Coach Brent Key talks to the players, we're going to have the offensive position coaches from Georgia Tech are going to address them quickly. The defensive coaches at 9:45, and then we're going to head out at 10 o'clock to the various fields. We're going to have teams at Bobby Dodd, the Rose Bowl that I mentioned, that was, I believe, the baseball field, the 2 rec fields, and then the indoor field. And then the tournaments will ultimately be played at Bobby Dodd. After the pool play, we're going to eat lunch at 1. The championship single elimination will start at 2:45, and the championship game will be played at 5:30. So, as I mentioned, previous years, that championship game wasn't being played till about 6:30 or 7, so it will go by a lot faster. So let's look at the different days real quick on the teams. There were some slight changes from what I had last week, but yeah, this will be day 1. We got Jackson High School, Maynard Jackson, Pope, Carver Atlanta Christian Heritage, and Southwest DeKalb. I'm going to have Carver's coach, Darren Miles, on the show, I believe, on this Friday, and he's going to be joining me with Kenny Dallas from Trinity Christian. That's something we're trying to do, is get the guests booked in advance so we can give you guys a heads up. But I just want to go over Carver's schedule for this season. It's unbelievable. They're going to be playing, I think, in back-to-back weeks, Calhoun in the Great Atlanta Bash, which I thought the Great Atlanta Bash last year was some of the best football I got to see all season. The Douglas County Mays game was unbelievable, one of the most exciting games. And then you add a Carver against Calhoun game, which I believe that'll be the first time they're playing. Then Carver's going to stack up against Buford. And then obviously in region play, they got Douglas, Cedar Grove, and defending state champion Sandy Creek. So I'm always excited to watch Carver, and they won't have to make that far of a drive. But they're going to be one of the teams to watch day 1. Then across from them, on the other rec field, Carver Columbus. We're going to have Coach Pierre Coffey on the show tomorrow that we'll talk about in a sec. Carver Columbus, they went down to 3A last year, had a really great season, lost to Oconee County in the playoffs, but that's a program that made it to the Class 4A state title the year before, where they lost to Benedictine, the 2-time defending state champ. So I think Carver has that state championship potential this year. I'm excited to get to talk to Coach Coffey tomorrow with Najee. Centennial is also in that pod. We got Woodland Stockbridge. Yeah, they had a strong season last year. And then Johns Creek, they were so young last year, had a new coach. I think they're going to be rebuilding. They'll be interesting. And then Woodward Academy is also in there. Last week, Jordan asked me who my favorite was to potentially win day 1 of the 7-on-7 tournament. I put Woodward up there as a favorite. I just think they have so many skill guys and just a ton of athletes that they're going to be able to move around. They're going to be hard to stop. And I like what I've seen from them. So then on the Rose Bowl field, Marietta, who has won 2 Corky Kell 7-on-7s in their past. They're no stranger to this event. Cartersville, Miller Grove, Archer, and Meadow Creek. Then in the indoor facility, Cherokee Bluff, Blessed Trinity, North Atlanta, North Cobb, Denmark, and New Manchester. And then the final day 1 pod is going to be ELCA, Greater Atlanta Christian, Calvary Day, Monroe area, and Douglas County. I think those are Douglas County and Calvary Day, two teams that I also would not be surprised if they take it all day one. With Calvary Day, you got Jake Merklinger, one of the highest rated upcoming seniors. He's a 4-year starter. Got thrown out there as a freshman. He led Calvary Day to the semis last year where they fell to Cedar Grove. And I think they have a ton of talent, including a big tight end, I believe, that is also extremely highly recruited. And then Douglas County, that is going to be fun to watch with Sire Hardaway. He's been on 7-on-7 all-star teams all off-season. Now he's going to be out there with the Panthers. And the way their offense runs is just built for these 7-on-7s. They are a great spread offense. So tons of star power day one, and we will have all that coverage. And we'll put out some lists with some of the players to watch for. The videos, the footage is going to be off the charts. And, I mean, this is a big deal to kind of elevate this 7-on-7, taking it to the next level. I've got to think it's probably one of the biggest 7-on-7s in the country this summer, just with 3 days and over 80 teams. But let's go over real quick day two before we focus to the next week, because it will be back-to-back. But on the rec fields, you got Cass, Savannah Christian, Cherokee, Lanier, Walton, and Columbia. Cass has a chance in 5A this year. They're going to be in that region with Calhoun, Cartersville, Hiram, and I forgot who else is in that one. But anyway, I mean, Cass this year, I think they're a top 10 team for sure. Got some of the best athletes, best prospects anywhere in the state. As good as they were last year, it's all been building up to this year. Just in terms of their senior class, their blend of underclassmen as well that all have experience. They came out and made their Corky Kell debut last year. They fell 1 point short to Kennesaw Mountain, then had an outstanding season. This year they're going to be opening up against, I think, Rome. So that would be a big one. And then Savannah Christian, another 3A powerhouse. I think they've got the highest rated prospect in the state as well. I think he'll be a rising junior. Don't know his name off the top of my head. And then Cherokee's a team I'm interested in seeing out of 7A. They made some noise last year. They're in that really tough region with Walton and North Cobb. But I like their chances as the lone team, I think, from Cherokee County in that pod. And then Lanier, they always do well in these 7-on-7s. Back when they had Zach Calzada, and then Columbia out of DeKalb, a great program. And then Walton is the only team that's going to have two different teams competing, and I've got to say that's a pretty strong flex, because I've seen them do it before, but that was when they had Zach Rosman and Jeremy Hecklinski. They had two starting quarterbacks. They alternated. This year, what's that second team going to look like? And as many skill guys that Walton has returning with Wyatt Sonderman, I think this is going to be key just for them building kind of that defensive depth, offensive depth, and then to have enough of a coaching staff to split it up and be able to kind of evaluate throughout the day. I just think that's going to be really beneficial to them, where a team that might have, let's say you're bringing 50 guys to this event, they aren't all going to get an opportunity to play, but you bring these two different teams out, they're all going to get a lot of reps, and obviously that number 2 team, they're going to be going up against stiff competition, and then Walton's number 1 team will go over that pod, but that will be one to watch for sure. In terms of my favorites for taking this thing on Wednesday, I think probably Cass, Kell, Walton, maybe Parkview, honestly. I need to check out Najee's interview with Parkview's new head coach. But let's go over the other rec field pod. It's going to be North Paulding. They're replacing a ton of talent from their offense that was record-setting last year. You got Kell. They'll have Peyton Zachary out there, probably one of the most dynamic, elusive receivers we'll get to see all day. Mill Creek. No, sorry, that's going to be Collins Hill in that one. And then Mays and Alpharetta. Alpharetta's going to be replacing Ben Guthrie at quarterback. But other than that, I mean, that is high-powered offense. And I think what stands out about Alpharetta, they have a ton of size at all their positions. Their offensive line is huge, but also their skill guys. All right, then on the Rose Bowl fields, you got Troop, Parkview, North Gwinnett. So that's exciting right there. You got Eric Godfrey at North Gwinnett going up against his old school, and that is going to be, when are they going to play? The 3 versus 2. Well, that's unfortunate. They're in the same pod, but it's 6. It's 6, so they missed each other. But I'm sure they'll possibly meet in the tournament. But you got both of them in the same pod, and then Troop with Teo Todd, all that star power, Kennesaw Mountain, Bluffton, South Carolina, and Lovejoy. Bluffton is a really successful team, and they're coached by Lenny Gregory's son. Forgot his first name off the top of my head, but they run a great spread attack, and they were willingly wanting to get into this 7-on-7 just to go up against Georgia's stiff competition. Then you got Walton, West Forsyth, South Gwinnett, Grayson, Lambert, and Hillgrove. And the first matchup in that pod will be Walton against Grayson at 10 o'clock. You better bet that we will be checking that one out, because those teams will, of course, be closing out Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the Corky Kell Classic. So a great matchup to look forward to there. And then at Bobby Dodd, that field is going to be Warner Robins, Mill Creek, Creekside, McEachern, Norcross, and Redan. So I think overall that second day on Wednesday, that might be the toughest lineup of teams right there, with Cass, Savannah Christian, Walton, Mays, Kell, Troop, Parkview, North Gwinnett, Lovejoy. I mean, that is going to be quite a competition. So check that out. And we will have an updated story. It's almost ready to go by the end of the day with more information. All right, and then let's just go over real quick the final day. This is going to be 2 weeks from tomorrow on Tuesday, June 20th. So we'll get to see our first 2 champions, and we'll see who emerges out of this one. On the rec fields, Hapeville Charter, East Jackson, Campbell, Calvary Christian, North Murray, and Chapel Hill. Then across from them is going to be Lassiter, Bethlehem Christian, Midtown, Charles Drew High School, Farrell, and Flint River. I'm interested to see Lassiter out there. They've had some tough seasons the past few years, but Najee highlighted their quarterback. They've got some good playmakers. Looks like they are definitely on the right track. This will be a big test for them. See how many games they can play, see if they can make a little run in the tournament play. Then the Rose Bowl field is going to be Best Academy, Heard County, Lakeside DeKalb, Landmark Christian, Dunwoody, and Dutchtown. And it will definitely be good to get a first-hand look at those teams. Dutchtown's coming off such an incredible season in Coach Nikita Battle's debut with the Bulldogs. All right, the Brock Indoor Facility. It's going to be Cook County, Tift County, Winterboro. They have a new head coach from Florida. I think that's Paxia. Then Salem, South Paulding, and River Ridge. And then finally, the last pod, rounding out day 3, it's going to be Roswell, LaGrange, Tucker, Sandy Creek, Camden, South Carolina, and Hebron Christian. So Hebron Christian, the big storyline, Gavin Hall's no longer there. He's with Prince Avenue Christian now. That was their starting quarterback last year. Who's going to replace him for the Lions? And then Roswell. We saw how they came out against Walton in their spring game with Dylan Williams having an incredible day catching the ball. I think he had 5 catches, 2 one-handed catches. He is certainly one of the better receivers we'll get to play. And then I'm interested in LaGrange. I think they're a team that can potentially make a run to the finals in Class 4A. We all know how well coached they are. They're a 4A team that has incredible numbers. Over 100 guys, I believe, have come out. And then I kind of chuckled because I saw Matt Napier's brother Billy, who's of course the head coach at Florida. I think he went viral over the weekend because he was pulling up to some practice in his Maybach, and it was a very nice looking car. So his players were having a good time with that. He is one of the highest paid college coaches in the country. So just an incredible lineup all around. We're going to have tons of media there. Once again, it starts a week from tomorrow. First actions at 10 o'clock. It will wrap up at 5:30. We'll get to talk to the Georgia Tech coaches. The kids will get to explore the facilities, and I think it is a good partnership that's going to help benefit Georgia Tech. And they've been hosting a bunch of camps, I think, over this past weekend, inviting a lot of local players. But let's go ahead and take a quick break. Thank our sponsors, Georgia Farm Bureau. We'll be back on the other side.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So a couple other news items. So on Thursday, we're going to be announcing the official class for the second incoming Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame class. We will have that out on Thursday, and that will be very exciting. We'll compare it to how it stacks up against last year's, what high schools produced multiple guys, what colleges are most represented, and we'll just kind of look at the trend. How many offensive linemen win in the first year, how many win in the second year. And then I think just from the start, we did a good job of focusing on the high school career, prioritizing that first. It's like, yeah, if someone has a good high school career that ends up winning the Heisman, becomes a first-round pick, that obviously gets factored into it as well. But still, it's about winning state championships, just having a great varsity career, and guys that were kind of nationally known, All-American, All-State selections, and then a lot of these guys on the ballot were, of course, nominated or highly recommended by our great board of directors. We've got the softball playing right now, and I just wanted to give a shout out. Last week, University of North Georgia won, I believe, their third Division II national title in softball. They conquered the entire field. I think they finished something like 64-7. It's a school record finish. And let's just go over their roster right now on how much Georgia talent is on there. So I'm not going to go over the names, but just going to list the name of the high schools. And then the pitcher that closed it out with a complete game shutout did come from Sonoraville, and that was, who was that? think that was Kristen Davis. But yeah, you've got just on that team that just won the national championship: Kennesaw Mountain, Walnut Grove, Alexander, Stars Mill, Collins Hill, Franklin County, Buford, Stars Mill, Monroe, Cherokee, Parkview, Pope, Cedartown, North Gwinnett, Adairsville, Northside Columbus, Kennesaw Mountain, North Oconee, Calhoun, East Coweta, Alexander, and Banks County. So congratulations to them. Just a team made up of Georgia standouts and bringing that national championship home to Dahlonega. That is very exciting, and we'll obviously be interested to see who wins the Division I coming up in a few weeks. But let's talk a little bit about tomorrow's big interview. I want to thank Jordan Dubroff, Matt Skinner over at Carrollton, Najee for handling all the technical aspects of it. But we're going to have Julian Lewis on the show tomorrow at 12:45 for an interview. I think this is huge for a variety of reasons. One, I've been covering high school football in Georgia for over 10 years. He's by far the biggest star we've had, just in terms of name recognition and the fact that he's a rising sophomore. He's already listed as the #1 prospect. The entire college landscape has changed now with the whole NIL, the value of these players, and then just what we've seen with some of the outstanding quarterback play in recent seasons. He's being compared to C.J. Stroud already. His freshman year at Carrollton, they made their 7A debut. He led them to the state championship. He set a state championship passing record. And really, I think he just grew throughout the season. Just in terms of his play, he never got rattled. Something Najee was pointing out, he got to see him play in person. And he just handled the spotlight so well. Being able to go on the road, get that big win over Colquitt County. Walton upsets Buford. They're clicking on all cylinders. He comes out there, leads them to a massive victory. His upcoming sophomore season, I couldn't be more excited to see what he's going to bring to the table. They've got a great group surrounding him in terms of the receivers. They got Bryce Hicks coming back. Joey King has done a great job, and I just see it with Julian. I mean, he's always working. His schedule's insanely busy. He's been all over the country on his visits, trying to make this. I mean, he's got time to make the decision, but I mean, he was chatting with Joe Burrow at his LSU visit, just talking football. And I mean, this guy is an absolute superstar. So we're going to get an exclusive interview tomorrow, and I'm just excited for that opportunity. And then we're also going to have on Carver Columbus head coach Pierre Coffey at the beginning of the hour. I think that will be a really interesting conversation as well, to talk about that program, what he learned in his debut season there, and then how the spring went for him and some of the players to watch for. But we've had some big names on the show already. We had Chip Carey. We had Jason Longshore. We, of course, had Jeremy Hecklinski, some other players. But I think with Julian coming on, that is going to be a big deal, and I'm excited for that. But there's no doubt at this point, heading into a sophomore season, no one has ever had, I don't want to say hype, because the hype is obviously real, but he's got all the hype surrounding him, just what his potential is moving forward. And he obviously has that luxury of being able to choose any school he wants. I think he is going to set potential records in terms of what he's able to make in terms of the NIL, his various just plans off the field, how to market himself, the surrounding team. I just think he's going to definitely make history, and I'm excited to see what he does on the field, especially as a force in 7A leading the Trojans. So check that out, and it will be a great show. Let's get into Thomas County Central, though, before we're joined by Coach Rogers on kind of how last year went for them, what they're building off of, and then who they're going to be going up against. So they are the smallest school in all of 6A. You could actually take Thomas County Central and their rival Thomasville, compare their school enrollment together, and they still wouldn't be a 7A school. But as a city school, that multiplier really hit them. I think they have like 30 or 40% coming from out of the district. So they went all the way from 4A to 6A. One of probably the only non-private school that took a 2-class jump. I'm trying to think of another one that may have. Calhoun didn't, Cartersville didn't. There might be one other, but so anyway, they're in this region with Northside, Warner Robins, Lee County, Houston County, Veterans, and Tift. They have a new head coach with Justin Rogers, who came from Colquitt County, and they came out, and the way their schedule was structured, it was basically 3 big-time rivalry games out the gate in non-region play. It was Cairo, Thomasville, and Bainbridge, and they just played exceptionally well in every single one of those. Their quarterback was Samuel Brown, who Coach Rogers described him as consistently consistent. He was a senior last year, but that was his first year starting. Had an absolutely incredible season. I think he ended up signing with sounded JUCO. It's like a 1-season prep school. So I know he's still trying to further his career, but he had a great season, made All-State, won Region Player of the Year, I believe. And so he leads them to a 57 win over the Syrup Makers out the gate. They played Thomasville the next week, beat them 31-0. So that's an 81-7 margin in their first 2 games. New head coach, new classification, a ton of momentum. And in that Thomasville game, they held Thomasville to 4 of 12 passing, and I think it was something like 3 yards to the air. They knew Thomasville was going to have to run on them. They made them one-dimensional and completed the shutout. Absolutely dominated. Then they played Bainbridge next. Thomas County Central was not even ranked at this point. I'm pretty sure I had them in there, but Bainbridge was number 5 at the time. They beat them 35-14. I think they were up 21-0 at the half. Cruised to them, and that was a game that really stood out to Coach Rogers because he knew Bainbridge was disruptive defensively, but they were just able to keep having that success. It's an offense that averaged 41 points per game last year. So then after those 3 rivalry games, they played 2 Florida teams before the region play. Childs, Florida, spelled like Chili's, but it's Childs. They won that one. It's a Tallahassee school, 42-13, totally dominated, and then played Godby, Florida, 48-13. So they're 5-0 at this point. He's ready? Awesome, sweet. So we got him early. Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for coming back on. So let's talk first about the spring. It looks like it went really well. You guys came out healthy and had a nice win over Perry.
Yeah, no doubt. Want to correct you on your intro, though.
Yep.
We're not a city school. We're a county school. We're definitely the only county school that got moved up and then got moved up 2 classifications. And a lot of the kids that we had that were, quote, out of district, I mean, they've been Yellow Jackets since 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 1st grade. So when they made the rule of fifth grade and below, that's going to make a big difference for us. Because you're right, we kind of played in the deep end all year last year with our enrollment numbers and what we had to do. But super proud of what we was able to do. But I just wanted to correct you on that because
Yeah.
we are not a
So
city school.
Thomasville's the city school. You guys are the county school.
Yeah, we're just the county school, and we're the only county school that got moved up like that. And so, you set a net to try to catch certain people, and unfortunately, sometimes people get caught up in that net, and I think that was us. So, but it is what it is. But no, I had a
Yep.
great spring this year. Like you say, we lost a lot of really talented players, especially on the offensive side with a lot of playmakers, and two receivers, a quarterback that set school records here for the all-time leading passing yards, broke Charlie Floyd's record. And then we had Tyler Floyd break the single-season receiving record. So a lot of offense to replace right there. But I thought our quarterback, Jalen Johnson, did good, and we'll have to continue to work on replacing the receiver by committee.
That's right. And so you said Tyler was just such a great mismatch last year in that slot role, just dynamic, extremely explosive, and just great route runner. But yeah, talk about the quarterback play, because I know you had some questions about the receiver position, but it looks like Jalen was able to give you a good look just with the way he handled the quarterback duties.
No, I think Jalen's going to be really good. We're going to go through some growing pains with him. He's a sophomore. His first year starting, he played freshman ball for us last year. He's got a lot of talent. He's a 6'2", about 190-pound kid. I mean, big kid. Power claim's about 275, so a strong kid that's going to be able to run the ball. But he's got a good live arm. He just lacks experience, and so we'll do a lot this summer through 7-on-7s and things like that to give him some simulated experience. And then early part of our non-region schedule, we'll just have to grow up with him, and protect him and try not to put him in tough spots. So by the time we hit this tough region play, going into game 6, he'll be ready.
Yeah, and it looks like that first touchdown went to A.J. Clark. That ball was a rope. I mean, he really threw it in there. It looks like he bobbled it, but was able to secure the catch and then obviously turn it into a big play. So what did you see from A.J. in that scrimmage? Just how did he look all spring?
Now, AJ, now we got our running back back, one of our running backs back, Trey Brenton, and then AJ Clark will come in with him at running backs. I do believe in a 2 running back system. We had Ricky Fulton last year who graduated now and went on to college. But AJ gives you a lot of speed. He's a big back. He's going to be a junior. And like I say, he caught the ball out of the backfield well. But with AJ and Trey, we're really going to have to lean on the run game early on and be able to establish a run. But we got 2 really good running backs to do it as Jalen, our quarterback, continues to get better and improves.
Yeah, and how big of a season and role is Trey Brenton going to have for you guys? I mean, he had a great year last year, really efficient numbers, but just already being able to show that he can catch out of the backfield and just be that go-to guy.
Yeah, Trey, he's got all the experience, been in the system, played last year, was a great back for us. He's a very physical running back. And so his experience, his calming presence, being in big moments will be huge for us in big games, because that quarterback, having him to be able to calm him down a little bit and lean on would be big, because he's got so much experience.
Yep, and then what did you see from the other quarterbacks? Looks like it was Chris and Jordan.
Yeah, Chris Wilhelm, he'll be our backup. He'll be our number 2 quarterback. And so he'll take that. Jordan's going to move to DB for us, and we're going to play him more in the DB role because he's a very good athlete. And Chris will do a really good job managing games. He has a great mind for it. Oh, my God. Mentally, he's so sharp, understands the system well, and is just always ready to go if needed to.
And then remind me who your defensive coordinator was last year. Was that Clark?
Cam Clark. Cam Clark did a phenomenal job.
So you were able to keep the staff intact from last year?
We have the entire staff coming back. That's correct. So
Awesome.
we have everybody coming back. Yeah, no doubt. That's a big deal. I think it's a big deal. Always has been. But I think it's even more so as you got these coaching shortages. There's just so many dang coaching jobs out there. And everybody's kind of trying to poach each other to fill spots. So to be able to keep them, I think is huge. But that's also a testament to our administration. They really, have done a good job of paying our coaches well, providing support for our coaches. Also, our city, we have a great town to live in and raise a family. It's just a phenomenal town to live in. And then also our facilities, because right now we got bulldozers and everything. We're going through some growing pains right now with all the construction of the brand new athletic facility. We'll have a brand new weight room, cafeteria, meeting rooms, coach's office, locker rooms, and indoor, all opening up, this time next year.
Yep, I saw when you first took the job, they were talking about some renovations that were going to be coming. So when did that start, and is it going to be done by the season?
Yeah, it won't be done by this season. It's a pretty major project. In fact, right now we're having to move the parking lot, the student parking lot, to the back because the current construction will go on that. So they complete the student parking lot this summer, and then in August they'll start on the athletic facility. It's a north of $30 million facility that they're building. It'll have gymnastics in there as well as all the football stuff, ROTC and band. It'll all be under one roof. This is all one roof structure. So everything will be connected right there with the indoor athletic facility, locker rooms, everything. So it'll be the nicest thing in South Georgia. And then I hadn't seen, just a few. I've seen most all of them. It'll be, right there, the nicest, or at least one or two in the entire state when it's done.
That's awesome. And then last year was your first year at the school. You're going to have some familiarity coming back, just heading into year two with a lot of these guys. But a guy that really had a strong impression on you with how he played was Desmond Jones last year. I think you said he was the heart and soul of the team. So just you got 1 year with him, but talk about just the bond you had just coaching him that season, where he is just after graduating, and then kind of the role he played just being a disruptive force defensively.
Yeah, we'll miss Desmond now. He was he was no doubt. I mean, you got to have that pumping heart to keep the blood moving, and he was the heartbeat of this team. I mean, just such a dynamic leader, and 22 years or 23 years of doing this. There's a handful that you think of that just have that it factor, charismatic and leader at such a young age, and Desmond is that. He's going to Clark Atlanta to continue to play football, and he'll go there. And his goal is to be a football coach, and my goal is to hire him when he graduates, because he's just that kind of impactful person. And there's a lot of leaders. Sam was that way too. So while I really like the talent that we've got coming back off this football team and the new talent that people don't know about that I think can be good, leadership is something that is going to have to be developed and strive for new players to step up and be vocal in leadership roles, because we lost some really big leaders off this football team. And that's always you always lose talent. You see that in the stat book that you lose, and you find a way to replace it. It's the leadership sometimes that can get you if you don't get that replaced. So we got our work cut out for us there, but we got some guys that's always stepping up this offseason since January, really taking those leadership roles and doing a good job.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about some of the guys that have stood out. I mean, on the offensive line, it looks like Ty Brown's coming back with some experience. Who else is going to be key up front?
Yeah, Ty, obviously is our anchor. He's a college prospect O-lineman, really good player. Owen Browswell, our center's coming back. Anytime you can bring the center back, that's a big deal. Just getting the points and the calls made. So having Owen back is really big. And then we've got Tommy Hires, who played some O-line, some hybrid fullback last year, that have moved to O-line as well. And so we've got two we got to replace, really, to be able to have new starters in there. And we've got a little battle going right now. But I feel good about it. We'll get as much done as you can in the summer and T-shirts done. I thought they had a really good camp or spring. And then our OTAs will be big for us with the O-line, being able to get that continuity, because we'll need to run the ball, and I think we'll be able to. One thing, is really not O-line, but we're such an 11 personnel team. We've got a really good tight end, coming back in Malachi Thomas, who's a Division One prospect. We play a lot of inline tight end, so he'll be a lot of the run game, getting things going. So having Malachi, Ty, and Owen, those three to kind of anchor that thing is going to be big.
Yep. And so Malachi, he's going to be heading into his senior season. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you saw him just have a really big role last season. What do you expect from him this year? Just things that he may have added to his game.
Pass catching. I mean, that's the deal now that we'll do. As we've lost those two dynamic receivers, he caught some good balls for us last year. This year, we'll push the ball that way more. We'll design some stuff and we'll set up some stuff more to get him the ball in space and let him kind of do some things there. And so that's where he'll have to expand. He'll still be real big in the run game, but we'll flex him out a lot more and let him catch the ball more.
And then looks like you have some more underclassmen that kind of getting a lot of attention and looks. Cameron Brooks for sure, and then who were some other guys I was noting? D. Reddick.
Yeah, defense. I mean, so our defense,
Yep.
we returned 6 starters off that side. And obviously Cameron Brooks, the freshman defensive end, going to be a sophomore. Unbelievable player, really humble guy too. And again, he'll be one of those that's got to step into a leadership role at a young age because he's just a dynamic personality. But so he'll be huge for us. He'll play some end, some buck linebacker for us because he runs so good. And then D. Reddick is just kind of, you'll see him on both sides of the ball a lot. So he'll play on boundary safety and continue to do that. He is just so explosive and a very good football player. And now he'll come over and play some wideout to replace some of the numbers that we lost at wideout there. And then you got Caleb Anderson on defense and Taiwan Christopher, 2 linebackers that are returning. Both of them are all-region players to really help you. And so you've got, back end, you got 2 returning starters. Linebackers, you got 2 returning starters out of the 3. Defensive line, you got 3 returning starters out of the D line. So you've got a good base to build around on defense, and defense we'll kind of have to lean on early. Last year we were able to just get out in front and really score a lot of points early on and put people away early. This year it'll be tighter ball games that'll go to the fourth quarter, and the defense can get us those opportunities to do that with the maturity and leadership that they have.
Absolutely. And then last year when we talked, you were talking about you felt like there wasn't as much depth that you would have liked. You guys were trying to obviously avoid any injuries, but do you feel like you guys are just have more depth heading into this season? And then was that something that did affect you later on? I didn't get a chance to ask you.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt it affects you later on as you keep going. Just having to wear legs down, not being able to sub as much as you'd like, be able to rotate some guys. Depth is still an issue. Being transparent, it is. We still not as deep. I think it's coming. I think we've got a bright future. I think we got some young players that are developing. I like the way we're structured our summer. We restructure our summer in the way that we're doing it to help develop those younger guys more. And so we got to continue to develop that depth. I think that goes into, anytime you take over a new program, sometimes getting it set up like you want to takes year 3 and 4 to really get that thing like you want it. I know at Jones, that's how it was. And by year 4 and 5, it just kind of ran. And so we hope to get that, head in that direction after this year. But, yeah, depth's an issue, especially when we're playing against some of the people we're playing against with the rosters that they have and the amount of depth they have.
And then I was looking at some of the stats from the spring game. It looks like, is it Danell Jester had about 7 tackles, a couple pass breakups at that free safety spot.
Yeah, we lost a really good one in Quincy Clark. He was a dynamic free safety, and Danell is going to be a sophomore. Young player is going to be really, really good. I really like him, and I think he's going to be a good player. But he's a sophomore, and a sophomore in 6A football, that's a tough spot sometimes to be in. So we're going to learn. You noticed that I've rattled off a bunch of sophomores that's going to be playing this year starting. And so that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? It's a good thing they're going to be back for a while, but you're going to grow up with them early on. But by the time we hit week 6 in region play, they're going to be playing like juniors, and they'll mature a lot by then.
Yeah, and a senior you will have returning those. Your kicker, Hayden Morales. I mean, that's got to be a sigh of relief just to have a guy returning that is reliable, can handle all the different kicking roles.
No doubt. I mean, Hayden was so good, and he kind of got. He's really known more for his punting. He's a really great punter, and our kicker got hurt and wound up tearing his MCL about game 3, or well, I'll take it back about game 4, and Hayden had to just step in and kind of had to do it. We had no one else, and do all the kicking. And boy, he just did a phenomenal job. And so having Hayden back is huge, but then Drew Renault is back also off his MCL injury. He's really good. So, we just got through talking about depth, and while I don't have depth in a lot of places, heck, I got depth at kicker. I got some good ones there. And so if it wasn't a highlight, that's it. We got some good depth at kicker.
For sure. So let's just talk about the schedule. Is it going to be the exact same teams this year? Still Childs and Godby out of Florida, or did those switch up?
No, we wound up. Childs dropped us. Didn't want to play. They were supposed to come here, and good old Florida Georgia contracts. There really ain't a whole lot you can do other than a handshake and ethics, and you hope that they'll honor it. But unfortunately, they wouldn't honor it and just backed out. And so, talking to them and trying to keep them to do it, we went out trying to find a game. And trying to find a game in the middle of a cycle is not easy, but kind of worked out well. That our neighbor right beside us, Brooks County, had a team out of Alabama to drop. So now we will continue the battle of the borders. And so we'll do Cairo, and then we'll do Thomasville in the city, and then we'll do Bainbridge, and now we'll just step right over there and get Brooks County too, and get and play them. And so Maurice, Coach Freeman does an unbelievable job. There's such a great program in our state. And again, they're 20 minutes away from us. It's right beside us. It's a great game for our communities to play each other. And so we'll just keep that South Georgia rivalry. So we're very blessed to be able to add them. But other than that everything else is the same, just flip home and away.
Okay. Well, that would be a big matchup. And, yeah, that's one of the things you're talking about, all these rivalry games right out the gate. And then, obviously, that Region 1, you guys are the defending champs, but there's going to be a lot of focus on it. And I think we could argue it might be the deepest in all of 6A this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a deep region. I think they showed it. We showed it last year with how far all of our teams went. That got out. I think we had a sweep in the first round. I mean, it's just it's a tough region, and it's going to be a tough region again. I know Houston County and Lee returned a ton of starters off very talented teams, and so they'll be tough. Northside's got brand new coaching. And so we'll see kind of how that goes. And then you always Tifton veterans always going to do a really good job for you. So now it's a tough region. It's a good region. Like I say, we're always going to go in there and compete. It's great venues. All the places you play have really good venues to play in. So no, it's good. It's really good.
It'll be fun for sure. Last question, just who are you guys going to scrimmage before 2023 kicks off?
We played Cook County. Again, keep it South Georgia, right? A-Dale. Coach Slack, Byron Slack, we coached together at Moultrie, and so we both had, I came here and he left and went to take the head job there, and so we got a lot of mutual respect for one another, and so we picked each other up to scrimmage each other, keep it close. So we'll go over there to Cook and play them.
Awesome. Well, Coach Rogers, thank you so much for coming on. Best of luck this offseason. Hope those facilities get ready on time, and we can't wait to see you guys out there in 2023.
Outstanding, and thank you so much for having us on.
Anytime. All right. Well, there goes Coach Rogers. So, yeah, Thomas County Central, 12-1 season last year. You heard about some of the things they have going on. The one change, they will be playing Brooks County the fourth game of the season. Then they'll host Godby, Florida powerhouse, get into the region, and we'll see how they stack up against 6A. But think the big takeaway, how will Jalen Johnson handled the quarterback roles. He had a great spring game, threw a couple touchdown passes. They got out to that big lead over Perry. Defensively, they returned starters at each level, defensive line, linebackers, and then the secondary. Obviously, it will be new guys needing to step up, but they had an outstanding defense last year, very disruptive, and they were always able to kind of start games strong, didn't have to play from behind at all. So lots of excitement. And then Cameron Brooks, he's the rising sophomore, the big defensive end. He's already picked up offers from LSU. D. Reddick, he is going to be a junior. He's an athlete that Coach Rogers says is going to play both sides of the ball. He was one of their leading tacklers last year at safety. And he is currently listed as the #1 athlete in the junior class in the state of Georgia and number 8 in the nation. You also have, let's see, some other names I was talking about. Oh, yeah, the tight end Malachi Thomas. He's going to play a massive role in this offense this year. So they still have that two-headed running back attack. Trey Brenton handled that with Ricky Fulton last year. He's back to be kind of the feature in that two-headed attack, but then Malachi Thomas is going to be so important in that tight end role because Thomas County Central, they like to use tempo, and then with the 11 personnel, they aren't going to have to take them out of the ball game. They can just keep things rolling. And that's one of the things that Coach Rogers was talking about. Around like 2011, all these offenses were going up against odd fronts, and so they were running the spread, but then defenses started going back to 11 personnel, and then it's more advantageous to have that big tight end to create the mismatch against a defense that's going to be more defensive back centric, to where they can have a big tight end to go out there and create mismatches. And at 6'4", 227 pounds, I think the senior Malachi Thomas certainly is going to be able to do that. He was a huge role last year. He was a first-team All-State player and first-team All-Region. So watch out for Malachi Thomas. But that's all I've got for you for now. Which one? Mary Mays? Yeah. Let me see. I saw there was a shooting at a party that impacted a Mary Persons kid. I think that happened over the weekend, and then I think I saw the Mays one. Who'd you see reporting that? Yeah, I think that one happened last week. And it's tough. Before Mays played in the Corky Kell for the first time, they had lost 2 players that offseason to shootings. And so we've seen it, I think, a couple. There was also, I forgot what other school it was, but from the top of my head, there's been about 4 or 5. So, I mean, hopefully. So the Mays one, that was a funeral?
It happened in the parking lot. And apparently they just had the funeral.
Man, that's tough. So yeah, we'll try to get more updates on that for the next show. Oh man. So that happened at graduation last week. And then, let me see. I saw this one today. It says, where is it? Hold up. It says Mary Persons football players, 2 others recovering after being shot during a party. The victims range from 16 to 20. that was posted on Sunday at 5 o'clock. It says a Mary Persons football player along with 2 other men are recovering after being shot midnight Sunday morning, according to Forsyth County, not Forsyth County, Forsyth City Police. Is that Millage Circle? There were 3 people shot, and obviously they didn't have a name, but that was a Mary Persons player. So, yeah, I will definitely try to look into that and have that to report on Wednesday. But remember, go to scoreatl.com, follow our social media, and do not miss the show tomorrow. Underrated and overlooked. We have the links out on our Score Atlanta accounts and our personal ones, and you can hear our interview with Juju Lewis heading into year 2. I think it's going to be really exciting. But thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to our sponsor, Georgia Farm Bureau, and we'll be back tomorrow.